Hey, listen, bro.
Niggas ain't saying, man, that nigga there, woo, woo, woo. And his brother go shoot at us. That nigga brother pull a gun out on Big U, nigga.
Imagine catching a raw, unfiltered moment of street justice on your screen. A moment that was supposed to be buried, but now explodes across the internet. We're talking about the newly surfaced footage that shows Nipsey's Deadliest affiliate attempting to take Big U's son, Jabari Henley, out in the middle of a viral, chaotic retaliation. In a world where a single frame can resurrect an entire feud, this clip takes everything up a notch, igniting fresh fire in an already heated LA street war. Stay tuned as we break down every frame, every word, and every shock that will keep you glued to the screen. Welcome to a story that turned the quiet corner of South Los Angeles into a feverish pulse. A story that began with a clip on a phone screen and ended with a city gripped by grief and rage. In late October, a video surfaced that showed the late Nipsey Hussle, his closest affiliate, and his own nephew, Jabari Henley, all standing together at a small corner shop. Within 3 days of that clip going viral, Jabari was shot to death in a drive-by that night, a grim echo of the night the world mourned Nipsey Hussle's murder. The clip, now the most talked about footage in months, sparked a chain reaction that left the community reeling and the police scrambling to make sense of a new wave of violence. It all started on a rainy October evening when a group of friends, tired from a long day of hustling, gathered in a cramped corner of South Los Angeles. Their meeting was nothing more than an informal Instagram live, just music, laughter, and the occasional call for justice for Nip. But when the camera recorded Eugene Big U Henley, the former mentor and business partner of Nipsey Hussle, reacting with a laugh that was quick, almost nervous, the clip was already poised for misinterpretation. That laugh, caught in a moment that many in the community could not ignore, was weaponized by those who already blamed Big U for Nipsey's death. The clip became a digital fireball. In the span of a few hours, it spread across hashtags, retweets, and private messaging groups. In a city where reputation can be a matter of survival, the footage stoked old wounds. The clip showed Eugene and Nipsey, Nip's Deadliest affiliate, the one who had once been an outspoken critic of the Rollins family, alongside Jabari Henley, Eugene's son, at a tiny smoke shop on South Figueroa Street. The clip was an ordinary day until the very next night, and until the last night of October, when fate took a tragic turn. Before we dive into the night that turned into horror, we must understand the players and their past. Nipsey Hussle was a young entrepreneur who envisioned South Los Angeles as a launchpad, not a cage. He was an independent artist, a social entrepreneur, and an unapologetic voice for his community. Eugene Big U Henley had long been his business partner. Together, they built a business empire that included the iconic smoke shop, the Fig and 69 spot, which served the neighborhood's daily needs and was, for a moment, a symbol of self-sufficiency. Yet behind the facade of a small corner store, the streets were a playground of gang violence. In March 2019, the city witnessed a tragedy when Eric Holder, a Rollins affiliate and former manager of Nipsey, was convicted for the murder of Nipsey's affiliate Wack 100 after a trial that highlighted the power struggle between Nipsey's inner circle and the bigger Rollins family. Fast forward to October 31st, 2025. A black sedan pulled up outside Fig and 69 smoke spot. A shop with no documented gang affiliations, but located in a neighborhood historically dominated by Crip members of the Rollins 60s gang. In the footage that was posted later, Jabari Henley, eager to grab a quick energy drink, approached the sedan from the sidewalk. The car's passenger side door was open, the window slightly cracked. An exchange of words, a laugh, a brief pause. In the next moments, gunfire erupted, shattering the Halloween night air. According to eyewitnesses, 7 rounds were fired, and Jabari was struck 4 times in the chest, 1 in the left arm, and another in the thigh. He collapsed near the shop's entrance, clutching his side. A sedan with no license plate, no identifiable shooter, vanished into the maze of South Los Angeles streets, leaving the city with a new victim and a community in disbelief. The emergency response was swift, yet hampered by the severity of the injuries. Firefighters from Station 46 arrived within minutes, found Jabari unresponsive, and began CPR. Paramedics applied mechanical chest compressions and administered epinephrine, but the damage was too great. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The preliminary autopsy ruled out any involvement of alcohol or drugs. The blood loss was too great to attribute to poor judgment. The cause of death was homicide, and the case number was filed under 2025-04512. The perpetrators remained at large, and the city's police departments were left to navigate a web of rumors, evidence, and a community desperate for justice. The reaction from the neighborhood was immediate and polarized. On the streets, chants of justice for Nip turned into chants of justice for Jabari. Some community members, who felt that the narrative of Big U's betrayal of Nipsey was true, shouted that Big U had to pay for the betrayal that led to their son's death.
He wanted to leave a bad deal that he'd got into with Big U's unique label.
So I signed him to it. Was signed to a 10-year production contract. It was started in.
Others, who were outraged by the violence, saw the incident as a tragic reminder of how far the city's violence can go. In the midst of the outrage, the viral video, which initially seemed to be a piece of social media content, became a symbol of revenge and a rallying point for the neighborhood's gang affiliates, especially the Rollins family, which had lost a key member in the murder of Nipsey Hussle years before. The video was uploaded to an obscure social media platform, but was later picked up by larger media outlets. The footage was dissected by fans who used it as a piece of evidence in their quest to prove that Big U had a role in the murder of Nipsey and that his son, Jabari, was a target. The video also sparked a series of new claims that Eugene Henley had called Cannon, a Rollins affiliate, minutes before Nipsey's murder, warning him about noise. Cannon's testimony was never substantiated with phone records, but was taken as gospel truth by those looking for a scapegoat. The narrative grew, even as the trial of Eric Holder had already concluded that the murder was a personal vendetta and not a hit orchestrated by Big U. Meanwhile, the police faced a complex situation. The Metropolitan Detention Center had a locked cell, with Eugene Henley fighting federal RICO charges, yet no evidence indicated he was the shooter in the Fig and 69 incident. The authorities had to navigate the fine line between law enforcement and the community's demand for swift justice. They filed a homicide investigation under the name Case 2025-04512 and had detectives on the scene to investigate the crash. The police used forensic evidence to confirm the use of a 9mm or .40 caliber pistol, but the lack of a license plate or a driver's identity left the case cold. They were also under pressure from the community to provide answers, as many in the neighborhood saw their names on the news and their lives as vulnerable. The new footage of Eugene Henley, now known as Big U, with Nipsey Hussle and Jabari at the corner of South Figueroa and West 69th Street, was not just a story of a dead man, it was a narrative of betrayal and vengeance. For the first time, it tied Eugene's name to a new tragedy, fueling a cycle of retribution. The viral clip prompted retaliatory calls, and the violence at the smoke shop became a symbol of the ongoing battle between the Rollins family and their enemies. In a city where bloodlines can mean death sentences, Jabari's last name made him a target in a city that had already been ravaged by violence for decades. In the aftermath of the shooting, the community had to deal with the grief and the shock. The funeral was held in a local church, attended by Nipsey's former manager, Wack 100, who had been one of the most vocal critics of Eugene Henley. The community mourned not just a young man, but a symbol of their collective struggle. They also confronted the reality that the city's violence could be triggered by a single video clip, a laugh, or a misplaced word. The video spread highlighted how quickly a narrative can take over a community, especially when people feel that they have no other explanation for the violence around them. This episode also forced the city's law enforcement to re-examine their strategies for dealing with gang-related violence. The fact that Eugene Henley was already behind bars fighting federal RICO charges added a layer of complexity to the investigation. The authorities had to work with the Department of Medical Examiner to get an autopsy and toxicology report. The report, confirming no alcohol or drug in Jabari's system, indicated that the shooter was not a slippery or high victim. The forensic evidence from the scene, shell casings, the 9mm or .40 caliber pistol, helped the detectives identify the weapon but did not reveal the shooter's identity. The case was closed as a homicide, but the investigation remained open as the police continued to look for leads and possible suspects. The city's response was also shaped by the viral clip that circulated on social media. The clip was used by some to justify retaliation against Eugene Henley. They claimed that the laugh he had at the Instagram live session where someone called for justice for Nip was proof that he was involved in the murder of Nipsey Hussle. This narrative, although unproven, became a rallying cry for those who wanted Eugene Henley to pay. In a world where a single video can become a weapon, the city faced the challenge of separating fact from rumor and ensuring that justice is served while also preventing further violence. In the end, the story of the viral clip that showed Eugene "Big U" Henley, the late Nipsey Hussle, and Jabari Henley at a small smoke shop is a story that tells us how far the city's violence can go. It also shows how a single laugh or a single clip can become a catalyst for further violence, how a community can be left with a new tragedy and a new sense of grief. The city is left with the knowledge that the fight for justice can sometimes be a double-edged sword, especially in a city where people have lived with the weight of violence for years. In this story, we see a video clip that began as a laugh in an Instagram live, turned into a rumor that spread like wildfire, and then became a symbol of vengeance. The shooting of Eugene Henley's son, Jabari, became a tragic reminder of the ongoing war in the city. In South Los Angeles, the narrative of betrayal and vengeance has always been a reality that the community and the police must navigate carefully. The new footage reminds us that a single moment on a screen can be enough to turn grief into revenge, a lesson that will be remembered for years to come.
By bringing DJ Khaled to the 60s hood and not asking permission. They were there to shoot a music video for Khaled's song Higher that featured Nipsey and John Legend. Allegedly, Big U sent Rollin' 60s members to the shoot to cause trouble, causing Nipsey and Khaled to have to...
The night that had seemed a quiet hour of mourning for Big U's family turned into a storm of online outrage, a cascade of viral posts, and an investigation that found itself tangled in the very rumors it sought to untangle. It was not merely the brutality of Jabari Henley's death that rattled the city, but the way the digital world turned his grief into a celebration of vengeance, a distorted echo of the earlier beef with Nipsey Hussle. In the cramped cells of the detention center, the walls of the unit where Big U's son lay in shock seemed to close in on him as the weight of the internet's roar pressed down. Over the past hours, his cell had become a battleground of emotions, a place where doxing had gone viral, where every message that flashed across screens was a reminder that his son had become a symbol, a target, not only in the streets but on a global platform. The irony was heavy. The son of a figure who had once stood as an ally to Nipsey, a man who had fought for peace, became a casualty for an accusation born from an association that was as much about legacy as it was about lineage. The footage that first appeared on late-night internet forums, a grainy clip of a man walking toward a smoke shop with a look of determination, was enough to ignite a spark. The clip showed an affiliate of Big U, a person who had claimed to be Nipsey's deadliest affiliate, in a position to carry out an assassination. That person's intent had traveled through a chain of words, becoming a meme. Within hours, the clip was no longer a hidden video. It had exploded across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and other platforms, each retweet and share turning the footage into a symbol of street retribution. The viral spread didn't stop at the clip. It multiplied the conversation into the realms of hate speech, doxing, and a cruel digital celebration of a young man's death. As the clip circulated, the authorities faced an immediate influx of anonymous tips. Between November 1st and November 2nd, the Crime Stoppers hotline recorded 150 calls. Each call was a mixture of raw anger and the weight of a community that had grown up in a landscape of intergenerational violence. Some callers mentioned the 2019 shooting that had resulted in Nipsey's death. Others brought up old beefs that had never resolved, and still others directly named Big U and the alleged connections between his son's death and a supposed act of revenge. The detective teams had to comb through these calls, sifting through the sea of speculation. Every tip that mentioned the old beefs required careful cross-checking with known gang affiliations and histories, while other calls were dismissed as false leads born from an internet frenzy that had no connection to the actual crime scene. Ballistics was another critical front of the investigation. Detectives from LAPD's forensics unit were analyzing the bullet casings retrieved from the scene. While the bullet patterns and residue were still being compared to known weapons in the city, the evidence was limited. No forensic report had yet linked the crime scene to a specific gang or individual. Yet the digital age had turned the ballistics data into a rumor stockpile. The same social media feeds that criticized the authorities for doing too little had also claimed that the weapon used had a distinct barrel or serial number that had been connected to a known gang weapon. Each rumor, however, added another layer of complexity to the detective's job. The police's efforts to mitigate the online frenzy came after the fact, when the platforms had already suffered damage. Twitter, rebranded as X, suspended 15 accounts that had shared sensitive personal details about the victim, home address, workplace, and even the name of his daughter. TikTok demonetized 200 videos for graphic content, but the videos themselves remained visible, a reminder that the algorithm had not fully purged the disturbing material. Instagram flagged 50 reels under hate speech policies, placing warning labels yet not removing the content outright. In the moments that followed, a new wave of posts surfaced, celebrating the moment as the fruition of a street code that claimed the son had deserved the retribution. These posts spread through TikTok, X, and even some YouTube channels, each iteration amplifying the original footage and the narrative it represented. The impact on the community was measurable. The number of tips to Crime Stoppers rose by 22%, but the quality of those tips was uneven. While some provided genuine eyewitness accounts, people who saw a black sedan pull up at the smoke shop and saw a man step out with a weapon, others simply repeated the narrative that the son of Big U had been killed in retaliation for his association with Nipsey Hussle. The detective teams were forced to spend hours validating each tip, confirming whether the described vehicle matched the known gang vehicle or if the eyewitnesses had a direct link to the crime scene. In the midst of this turmoil, a few voices tried to cut through the noise. Blacc Sam, Nipsey's brother and a representative of the estate, took to Mara Records' Instagram. His post was succinct but powerful. Pain multiplies pain. Honor Nip with peace, not this. It was a direct rebuke to those claiming they were honoring Nip's memory by celebrating Jabari's death. This message was a stark reminder that Nipsey had, in his later years, worked tirelessly to bridge gaps, to bring peace to a community rife with conflict.
One of the co-defendants in the upcoming case actually revealed on No Jumper that Big U had told him Nipsey was dead before it even happened, with Loose Cannon saying that Big U had prior knowledge of Nipsey's death before it all went down, mentioning it on the phone to him, which led.
Instead of following that path, the viral spread had taken a turn toward further violence. Meanwhile, within the detention center, Big U was learning that the loss of his son was being used by some to celebrate a sense of justice. In a private conversation with his cellmate, the former convict who had been present in the viral footage, Big U expressed his frustration. "I don't care even if the child was doing bad or not. You know what I'm saying?" The internet is actively celebrating it as justice finally being served. This perspective, a mix of grief and a recognition that the internet had amplified his loss into a narrative he did not endorse, added a new layer to the complex web of emotions and narratives. The atmosphere in South Los Angeles had never been calmer. Even as the city attempted to promote peace initiatives, the underlying tension of gang dynamics persisted. Some observers noted that a single act of violence could spark a retaliatory chain reaction. The streets remained volatile, and the presence of various sets and factions with historical grudges meant that a single incident could ignite a larger conflict. This context framed the entire investigation, making it impossible to isolate Jabari's murder as a purely isolated incident. Instead, the case had become a focal point for the city's larger struggle to balance law enforcement, community outreach, and the relentless momentum of online narratives. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives continued to review surveillance footage. The footage from the 5th Avenue smoke shop, the surrounding intersections, and the 2nd and 3rd Streets where the incident occurred were all being meticulously analyzed. The ballistics reports, once they were finalized, would provide crucial clues. Whether the firearm used matched one owned by a known individual, whether the shell casings were found at the scene, and whether the weapon had been fired recently. Yet, each piece of evidence was weighed against the backdrop of online posts that claimed to have seen a black sedan with a specific color, a specific wheel configuration, or even a specific set of decals. Those rumors were often fabricated or misinterpreted, but they were powerful enough to mislead both the public and the investigators. The emotional toll on the Henley family was profound. While the social media platform X eventually suspended 15 accounts for doxing, the damage had already been done. The addresses, workplaces, and personal details that had been publicly shared had already found their way into dozens of personal profiles and third-party posts. Even after the removal of some content, the viral nature of the clip meant that many people had already seen graphic footage of Jabari's death, some of whom had later posted condolence messages that were quickly drowned out by celebratory comments. The fact that only a minority of voices, roughly 10% of the posts analyzed, actively condemned the mockery shows how overwhelming the sense of mob justice had become. When the detectives tried to call in witnesses, they faced a dual challenge. On one side, they needed to locate credible accounts who could provide useful leads. On the other, they had to be wary of those who might have been influenced by the viral narratives, giving them false information. In addition to the anonymous tips, the police also reached out to known community leaders, hoping to gain trust and encourage cooperation. The local community's experience with past shootings and the cyclical nature of gang retaliation were well documented, and many of those who had grown up in those neighborhoods were aware of the dangers associated with bearing certain surnames or being connected to certain families. The footage that had initially circulated, showing a man walking toward a smoke shop with a determined expression, had now been expanded upon by new videos. A more polished, higher-resolution clip appeared, with a clear shot of a black sedan parked near the scene and a figure inside pulling a firearm. Some of the viral videos even added a voiceover, a distorted audio clip of the supposed Deadliest affiliate saying, "I'm coming for your boy." Such additions made the clip feel more personal and urgent, pushing more users to spread it further. The combination of video and audio, even if altered, turned the story into something that could be replayed, dissected, and turned into a meme with each new iteration. The authorities' attempts to calm the situation had to consider the broader city picture. The community was facing a wave of fear, especially after the clip spread. They worried that the retaliation might trigger more shootings. The city's peace outreach programs were at a loss for how to address the new narrative that had grown from a short clip into an internet phenomenon. They had to balance law enforcement with community outreach, offering counseling for grieving families while also ensuring that the investigation remained grounded in facts rather than internet rumors. The last update from the authorities, released on the night of November 6th, was a sober acknowledgement of the situation. No arrests have been made yet, but the investigation is ongoing. They highlighted that ballistics reports were still pending, that the forensic comparison of bullet casings to known weapons had not yielded a definitive link, and that the detectives had to keep working on cross-referencing the anonymous tips with the known gang history. The lack of arrests did not indicate a lack of progress. Rather, it was a reminder that the investigation needed more time, more concrete evidence, and more reliable testimonies before any arrest could be made.